Dan Quinn is going to take over defensive play calling duties. Danny, you've been begging for a change. You've been asking for some acknowledgement that the status quo is unacceptable, other than changing seats, which they had done. They went from the booth to the sideline for Joe Whitt to get a better view of Jared Goff rubbing the Commander's face in the ground. He had a great view of 546 yards.
He saw it clear as day from that sideline, didn't he? And I hope he didn't get whiplash from his head going right to left and left to right. Watch all the big chunk plays.
How do you feel? They did the thing.
Thank goodness. Weeks too late, frankly. Weeks too late. It's obnoxious and a slap in the face, as I said. It is a face fart that they didn't do anything at the trade deadline, that no demotions happened, no removal of responsibilities, no changing of any personnel. Nothing occurred until they finally had to lose at a historic rate for an extra time. For someone to finally say, hey, this isn't working like it should. We're going to change something. It's not exactly everything that I would have hoped for, but all I want is the acknowledgement. When the building is on fire, you cannot tell me it's not on fire. The building's on fire. They finally said, all right, it's hot. That's what I want. Now, am I satisfied? No, but it's way better than another slogan, another, a catchphrase about True North or finding our, North Star and singing a poem and reading a book. And we're going to have a sleepaway camp in Madrid. It's going to be a blast and brotherhood. It's better than that. All I want is some acknowledgement that we're so upset. That's what I wanted, and I got it.
So the acknowledgement that they were aware of how bad it is, which you care a lot about,
yes,
is less important to me because I think it's fairly easy to assume that they're not happy. This is their livelihood, too. They care so much about getting this right. They're losing sleep over this as much or more than we are. They're making a lot of money to lose sleep over it, but they're still losing sleep over it. What I like about this is it does show an urgency, and it shows that this is going to escalate. You can't just do this, and then it keeps being bad and nothing happens on the back end. You understand?
Yep.
So when it's almost, the acknowledgement is the beginning of a pathway forward where you essentially say, all right, I'm going to take the car out of the garage that I haven't driven in weeks. Next time, you might drive a little further. Next time, you might take it to the car wash. Then you might start working on it. Like, everything's on the table now. When you start demoting people, when you acknowledge publicly that this is as bad as everybody thinks it is, you are now putting everything out there for us to assume and guess as to what's next. So I like that there is just an aggressiveness and an urgency to how they're going to operate the rest of this season, hopefully. I do think it takes a firing of Joe Whitt off the table, and I'd be surprised if there's any major dismissals of coaches for the rest of the year. Is it possible they could take some position coach who they're butting heads with behind the scenes or something and scapegoat that one guy? I guess so. But if I had to guess, Danny, you said it at one half of one coach on the defensive side that gets fired between now and the end of the year. This morning, I would have said yes over Joe Whitt will get fired after they play the Dolphins. Now I'm saying under, because this was your one move. You've taken away his play calling. He stays on staff. If you can par the course, if you could just get through these flames, there's no reason to fire him at the end of the year necessarily. So I think you just got to get through the worst of the worst, and then you can add talent and go back to the drawing board and try to figure this thing out this offseason. So I bet now they don't fire anybody.
I still think they do, but it's not going to be Joe Whitt. It'll be somebody, and again, I'm not just throwing out names willy-nilly, but it'll be like the defensive pass game coordinator or the assistant secondary coach. There'll be some kind of nominal thing when this doesn't work either.
Let's go to Shane, who's in Bulgaria on the Odyssey app.
It is a Monday.
Shane?
Commander, Grant, how y'all doing today?
Good, dude.
Hey, getting ready to fly out to Spain tomorrow, and I don't know where I'm going, but you know what?
Can I ask you a personal question? I'm just fascinated.
Go ahead, boss.
How much did you spend on the trip all purpose?
Honestly, gas for the plane, and my buddy has a place over there, so travel is just the cost on the pilot for the plane, and just whatever I want to do over in Spain.
That's true. You've got your own world traveling ways.
Yeah, different John Means.
But my thought is, there's a lot of fans that spent thousands of dollars on tickets and airfare.
Yeah, my
and
buddy.
hotels.
So my buddy's coming from DC, and he dropped right around $6,000 for
$6,000.
$6,000. That's about the average.
That's unbelievable.
So I guess that's about what mine was going to cost with the gas and for the pilot. So, but luckily my buddy owns a house over there, so I get to crash at his place, and he gets to go to his first professional football game. So
semi-pro.
He took me to a professional bullfighting once, and now I'm returning the favor.
You're returning the favor. There's a joke in there somewhere about the Commanders and Matador.
And they're the bull.
Right now, I'd rather watch the bullfights than watch the Commanders. That's for damn sure.
Right.
Hey, but I think it's the Commander hit it on the head. It's too late. He's way too late. I think he should have done it like maybe 3 weeks ago. I mean, it could have been obvious that this defense is not getting better. It's just getting worse. And I keep hitting on the head. Like, it's not getting better next year's roster either. Now we need to start looking at next year's roster, because this season's shot. We're going to be picking in hopefully the top 5 now. But we're still in rebuilding mode, right? This is rebuilding. So if you want to rebuild, let's start seeing these younger guys now. Let's start seeing the younger talent, see what you have, and start building depth. You win them depth in this league, in any football league. You got to have depth, and we have none. And that's due to Adam Peters. That's ownership. You got to start putting fingers at Adam right now. You guys hear me say this a lot. You got to start putting that here. What do you guys think? I mean, Adam's got to have some kind of say-so in this either, right?
Yes. So for me, this offseason will be where I'm really going to start. I don't.
There's not a whole lot he can do in season.
Yeah, not to say begin evaluating, but this will be a big test, and here's what I mean. I fully understand and even condoned what they did in year 1 and year 2. It's not what I would have done, but he's qualified, I'm not. Meaning, I would have let myself get my teeth kicked in, build young, acquire as many draft picks as possible, done what the Jets did this year, but done that in year 1. I don't have a Quinn Williams or a Sauce Gardner, but acquired as many picks as possible, got young, got fast, got athletic, built this thing from the ground up in my image, how I want it to look. They said, you know what? They've been a laughingstock for decades. We need to establish some winning and some good culture right now. Let's go Vets. I get it. Not what I would have done, but again, I get that. It worked like a charm in year 1. It was the best ride I've been on in decades. They doubled down. That made sense. You go to the NFC title game, you don't just say, all right, let's swap out horses. No, you kind of keep riding. This blew up. This will be the offseason. He failed at the trade deadline for me, to be honest with you. But I'm holding out judgment. If this offseason is not that different than the last couple, I'll start throwing a fit. But if he's going, I recognize it, we're going to pivot, no more old, no more 1 years, let's get young, let's get draft picks, let's get fast. If that's the case, then by all means, I'm back on board. But what he tried this year swung and missed, but I got it.
Joe Whitt's defense ranks 31 out of 32 teams, and they have caught the Bengals, by the way. 6.36 to 6.40. They're right there.
We're going to get them.
On the verge
We're walking
of being
them down.
Number 32, and that Bengals defense is just all-time awful. They are 23rd against the run and free-falling, like they're parachuting out of a plane at this point. I don't know if our guy Shane paid for the gas in that plane or not, but they are jumping out of it with a parachute. And then passing yards per play, 8.45 a pop. That is worst in the NFL, and I had gone all the way back to 1981 was the earliest year I had information for, and nobody had allowed that many yards per pass attempt. So God knows what year that last happened, 8.45. I went back through 81 looking at the numbers on the site that I use, and nobody's done it. So we're talking about decades and decades since a team was this inefficient stopping the pass. Kevin in Arlington, what's up?
Hey, boys, the culture is actually damn good.
Yep.
So again, you're going back historically. You go back to 81, you can't say anything worse. You had to go back to the 50s to find a 4-game stretch where the losses were this putrid. Listen, another thing about this, don't forget, Josh Harris doesn't like to pay for employees. I'm not surprised anyone hasn't been fired, Danny, truly. But here's the thing. Let's invoke Marcus Mariota. They, meaning the boys out in Ashburnistan, they're not who they thought they were. They're certainly not who we thought they were. That's not hyperbole. Quinn is now 14-3 in Washington. We've seen his game management skills from timeouts to leaving JD5 in a lost game. Okay, we're in a historically bad stretch. Peters chose Quinn over Vrabel. He did. All right? Everything needs to be on the table when we get to late January. Everything. I believe in the duo of Peters and Quinn. I think they can fix this, but they blew it. And they have to go back to square one. And let me just say one last thing. The last time we had what I wanted, which was a non-retread coach, that was 1981, boys, when Joe Jackson Gibbs was unknown. I am done with the retreads because right now, Quinn doesn't look a whole hell of a lot different than Ron Rivera did in that last season. It's just too much. I'm ready for a change.
Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, last year was a massive departure for what his last few years in Atlanta looked like, and it feels, looking back, like a Jaden Daniels was incredible concoction. Is really what it feels like. But to your point, going into this offseason, and maybe more specifically, going into next football season, the honeymoon's over for him and his staff. I mean, it is a gotta-have-it season. If they get off to an 0-3, 1-3 start early next year, now you can start having the conversations about how warm seats should be and job security and those types of things. Having it now, I do think, is preposterous because you're 10 games removed from the NFC Championship game. So it is somewhat unserious to sit here and call for Dan Quinn to be fired or Adam Peters to be, grilled necessarily. But next year, that changes, in my opinion, for both of those guys. And I think Peters has more wins so far, anecdotally, proverbially, than Dan Quinn has. So I've got a longer leash for him. That could also just be my own bias, that I liked Peters a lot more when they hired him. I liked the hiring a lot more. Yeah. I was more in on it. But I think to suggest either of those guys should be called on the carpet right now or, feeling the heat, I think is unhelpful and frankly just incorrect. But we are now getting to the end of year 2 where it went so badly that year 3 is going to have to be a put up or shut up season for Dan Quinn. You don't get 2 of these and keep your job in this league, I don't think. Disastrous, awful.
You can't have the bottom fall out like this.
Also, there's something to be said for what type of coach are you? Danny, he's a defensive head coach. You can't have one of the worst defenses of all time. I get that there are injuries. If you were an offensive coach, think about it. If they had an offensive-minded coach who was not calling plays, and finally 10 games in, when they were one of the worst offenses in the recent history of the sport, they just went through one of the worst offensive stretches of all time, literally. And now you're taking over play calling duties. What would we be saying about that? I don't know why there's this differing, almost way to view the world with defensive-minded coaches who are kind of culture builders that cross their arms on the sideline. But yeah, your defense had better start playing better football, man. You're here for that reason.
Yeah, and again, I understand having, the follow the money, follow the draft picks. 2 straight years they drafted a quarterback in round number 1, an offensive tackle in round number 1 over the 2 seasons. Money flows that way. I understand that. Nobody's saying it's got to be the best in the sport. You know what I mean? It'd be nice if your defensive head coach put up a great defense like they're doing in Seattle. That'd be pretty cool. But I understand there's going to be a balance sheet when the emphasis is on your offense and scoring points and consistently having a great chance to win, which is being able to outscore somebody. That's what this league allows for. But the fact that the bottom has fallen out again, the second straight journeyman, bounce around, second gig, defensive-minded head coach that is sort of the CEO who can't get timeouts right, that's hard to stomach. If this was, again, I wanted Mike Vrabel in that mold, who's a lot better than this.
Yeah.
Timeouts are correct every time. The rules, the slight advantages, the little around the edge kind of things that are 100% controllable are controlled at an excellent and should be the prerequisite level. It is a bumbling, befuddling, overmatched festival of whoopsie daisy. We're down 30, but let's burn a timeout the first possession of the third quarter again. It's embarrassing. Now it's not why they're losing, but it's all part of this of the sauce.
Bottom 8 defenses in the league. Not one other team has a defensive-minded head coach. Not one. Bengals, Zach Taylor. Bears, Ben Johnson. Cowboys, Brian Schottenheimer. Giants, Brian Dable, who got fired today. Dolphins, Mike McDaniel. Titans, Brian Callahan has been fired. Now it's McCoy. Ravens, Harbaugh's a special teams coordinator. But Not one. That's the bottom 7-8 defenses in the NFL. Only Dan Quinn is a defensive-minded run organization in the bottom of the league in that regard.